Hey, good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. It's Kate Richburg, and it is our Bead Shop Live edition for Wednesday, November 25th, the day before Thanksgiving of 2020. So we're getting everyone together here, so just bear with me while we get all of this going. And then we're going to jump in and have a fun time this morning or afternoon or evening, whatever you got going on in your time zone. Okay, so let's do this right now. There I am. Alrighty, here we are, kids. It's almost US Thanksgiving, though I know that we have a very international audience here, which is awesome. We love that part of it. But a big happy Thanksgiving Eve to everyone. And I can see everyone has jumped on and is saying hello. It's great to have everybody here. And of course, today, you guys, we are having our wonderful, let me see if I can, sorry, my computer wants to swing around. I have it on a little swingy thing. There we go. Put that over there so I can get that right into place. Perfect. All right. So we have a fantastic guest. As always, you love to see her. I love to see her. I'm going to add her to the stream. JP, can I hear you? Can you hear me? Let's go right here. There she
Yeah,
is. All
hi.
righty. How are you, Janice?
I'm great. I'm fabulous. I'm cooking for one and I couldn't be happier.
Right? Yes. Chris and I always just cook for two
Uh-huh.
because, usually we're back here in the office, so we don't really go anywhere. So
Right.
indeed, we're cooking for two. Again, you and I were chatting about chestnuts and all kinds of fun things. So that my chestnuts are all roasted. I don't know if that's a
Oh.
euphemism for something, but my chestnuts are ready to go. And we're good. Drea mentioned that I'm wearing a scarf and a cardigan and some brooches. I've got all of the accoutrement on today.
Yeah, what's going on? I mean, it's
I don't
wonderful,
know.
but it's cold in the office.
It's always cold. I don't know. I always feel like it's cold. I don't know. What is it? A balmy 65 today? I
You
don't know.
look very Parisian.
Do I? Oh, bonjour. All right.
Bonjour.
I love that story. Um, yes, and a vest. Yes, I've got it all. All the Kate Richburg signature looks today. Well, it's great to see everybody, and of course, we've got um, Drea is doing some moderating over on the YouTube channel, and she shows up as customer service, which is awesome. And so the customer service person you see commenting everybody is our Drea, and of course we've got Gita commenting over and linking and stuff over on Facebook. So thank you, thank you, thank you, you guys for that. And it's great to see everybody here. So today, Janice, we are going
Hmm.
to do. Can I get it in
I
the
love
camera?
this. I
This one.
love it had me at
Let me put it
hello. I
in.
love the
Right?
way you did the color, the lack of too much color,
Oh,
just it's very, very special.
thanks. Well,
How did you
I'm gonna try
pick
and
those
get everything.
colors? Will you share
Well,
that
let
with
me add
us
it
when
to the
you're
stream.
ready? Oh God,
I
look at
will.
that.
Whoops. Let me turn my camera for some reason. Let's see if I can get it to turn. Bear with me here just a second while I
I just
try
love
to get
it.
that out. Thanks. I love it too. I think it's perfect. I don't know. I feel like this time of year I always do some kind of a charm bracelet kind of thing, I feel like. But I'm
Hmm.
so there for it, right? I love a charm bracelet. I really do. There we go. I think I've got it now. Let me add that back. Hmm. Hmm.
We'll smoosh them together a little bit because I can see them. It's
Yeah.
just,
Hang on, I'm going to highlight this. Bear with me, everybody, while I do that. Oh, yeah, there we go. We're all good. I
yeah, it's
just have
beautiful.
to, I just had to highlight us. So here's the piece. Okay, so um, the the project itself uses some of our new check glass. And this was one, JP, that when I got this new check glass, I just ordered it and then I told you about it. It was one of those things where I was like, well, this is what I've done. So, but I saw them and I just thought, I don't know, winter white, right? I mean, I'm sure your mom did this too, that she had something that was a winter white piece. Gran had a coat, a white coat that was her winter white.
It's very Miriam Haskell, very,
Yeah.
where different size beads and different size whites, and then
Yeah.
that spot of the charcoal with the AB. It's
With that
just,
AB. Yeah, I think
yeah.
it's cool. Yeah. So I just thought something in a winter white
Hmm.
would be really festive and it would take you all the way through. You know, you could wear this any time of year, of course, but I just love it. And Lorraine is saying, and it's very true. She says she loves winter white, so elegant and classic. I agree. I feel like this is a really classic look, and that's what you were saying, Janice, with its reminiscence to
Hmm.
Miriam Haskell.
Hmm.
Kind of has a classic look to it. So let me measure these for you guys to see how they work together as a bundle. Um, I wanted the silhouette of this piece to have kind of, I didn't want all of the beads to look the same, right? So and you could also do this as a necklace, right? If I lay it out like this would be a
Yes.
great like layering piece. You could add some freshwater pearls into this. You could do a whole bunch of stuff. But um, the new beads, we've got a new spindle. Let me grab this. I've tucked them away so carefully, it's going to take me a moment to untuck them. But here is the spindle. And that spindle, Janice, it's almost 18
Hmm.
millimeters, so it's a nice, generous one.
Yeah.
This would also make a nice earring, too, right? I used every single drop in on the strand because the way that those drops come, they come in strands of 6, so I used 6 of them. They're about 19 and a half, almost 20 millimeters.
Hmm.
So
They're
this is also great.
gorgeous.
Aren't they pretty? I really like them. Then these
Mm.
drops, they have an etched finish to them, about 9 millimeters. And then, of course, the 8 millimeter rondelle, which we just love. And that's that one that has the mercury and AB coating
It's
on it,
just,
right? Then two more to look at. The melons, which we just had to reorder because they were super popular. You guys love melons. We love melons too. The 6 millimeter.
I'm just fascinated how you put these different shades and hues together. I mean, I would have never picked that white.
Really?
And
I
look
don't
how
know.
great it just,
Yeah, it just
it
gleams. I don't
pops.
know.
Yeah.
And there's that English cut with the gold.
Hmm.
I always kind of shy away from using white too, just because I don't think it's very interesting. I don't really wear white much. Um, but I thought that, every design, I think, that you put together needs a little pop of something, right?
Hmm.
And so I was actually thinking originally that this AB Mercury rondelle would be the pop of color, right? But it's not really. The pop is actually the white,
Yeah.
which I think works really nicely. So I don't know. I don't know. Like, have you been watching the Queen's Gambit, the
Oh,
the
twice
latest show,
now.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're on our second viewing. Well, when Beth says, they ask her about playing chess, right? If you haven't watched it, it's amazing. But um, they ask her about playing chess and they say, how do you practice, right? Because she doesn't have a chessboard, access to a chessboard all the time. And she says, I play chess in my head. Well, that's kind of what I do when I design this stuff. I look at the beads and I play chess in my head with them. So sometimes it comes out. This one came out as a fully formed idea. It doesn't always happen, but that's how this one went.
And I love how
So
the spindles have that Picasso finish on the side. So
yeah,
they're sort of a surprise.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It is kind of it is. I
Hmm.
don't know. I feel like I don't know. This one was really effortless. Sometimes, as you know, um we struggle, if you
Yeah.
have a deadline, I have a deadline and I'm struggling. I'm like, oh, God, I don't know. But this one almost came out fully formed almost. And I think it's because I paid attention to, as you say, this Picasso, to this kind of Picasso
Hmm.
that's on the bottom of this drop. Each of these beads has some kind of finish on it. This one, the
Hmm.
white, I think has a luster. It's a little bit hard to see on the camera, but this has the AB and Mercury. So all of these finishes, I think, kind of come together. And then the seed bead that I used, again, not a seed bead that I use all the time.
Hmm.
I used the AB, um, 8 millimeter,
Hmm.
right? Um, it's
Is that the
the
100F? A
uh,
100. Yeah.
1001.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shiny, not a matte. But you could use the
Right.
matte too if you wanted
Right.
instead. Um, so I just kind of gave it up to my higher bead power and said that's what I'm going to do with it.
It's
So
beautiful.
so let me show you. Well, let me show you a couple of things before. I mean, you've seen these, JP, but let me show this to everybody here.
Oh,
Um,
this isn't
oh,
just for me today?
no, it's not just you and I. I don't know. Let me. It can be. We'll just ignore everyone else. No.
Now
Oh, you
tell
know
us
what I'm
about
gonna
that
do?
surface. Give us
Oh,
a,
this is
yes.
my metal smithing surface, and look at
Yeah.
how messy it is. I've got my brush here. Let me brush. There's a whole bunch of copper dust on this thing because I'm sitting out. I do when we do the two broadcasts. I sit out because the reception's a little bit better. There we go. That looks a little
Oh, that
cleaner,
really
doesn't it?
looks,
Doesn't it? Did it look better? I don't know.
no.
Okay. Well, at
But
least I'm not
but
getting
this is
copper into everything.
this is a well loved.
It is
This
my
is where
well-loved.
all the magic
The
happens.
magic happens, right? And so
Yeah.
this, I just have, and you guys can look in your stash or whatever. This is just a piece of scrap leather that I have that I love as
Wow.
just kind of a work surface. It makes things feel
Mhm.
a little more tactile and nice to work on. So that's what I have. Um, so we're going to use the ball head pins that we've just gotten in, and I've got that going. But I wanted to show you guys because we've got, Janice, you worked on a really beautiful chain necklace that we're going to show in a couple of weeks, and then
Mm.
we've got some chain projects. So I wanted to pull out some of the chain projects from the quote unquote archive, right? This one it feels like you did a while back, but maybe I did this one and you did the red one. I can't remember.
You did this. You did this one.
I did this one.
Yeah.
And so all of these what do I want to say? Kind of all of these are all kind of cousins in the chain necklace
Mhm.
kind of family or
Mhm.
chain jewelry kind of family. And so I wanted to point out how nice these some of these connections look. I don't have them in the bracelet that I have today, but there's certainly things that you can add. This is that hammered connector that we
Mhm.
carry, and we just connected it with some 6 millimeter jump rings to the chain, which look really, really pretty. I'm going to show you today, you can see with this drop how I wire wrapped it. I wire wrapped it with 24 gauge here, but in the piece, I'm going to show you how I wire wrapped it with the head pins and the bracelet key.
Oh.
Because see how I use the ball head pin on all of these. And I was like, it was kind of sad to have this little etched drop that didn't have any little ornamentation on
That
it.
is
So I'll show you
so
guys how to do it.
clever.
Yeah, I think it's pretty. And I'll show you. You have to be really light fingered for it, but I'm going to show you my hopefully no fail way to do it. These were lariats, and I think, I've got, I don't know, maybe when fall comes, I'm thinking scarves, and when I think scarves, I think lariats. I don't know. But this was a lariat from, and Drea is saying that these were from the Stones of Wisdom
Mm.
project, that one. But this one, these were chain lariats, and we just got, I think it's when we just first started to carry this Fancy Pants chain and then the Rustico chain, which I love. And I wanted to show you guys this kind of up close. These are our textured jump rings. You guys can see that. And look at how nicely they go with just a rosary looped 4 millimeter check fire polish, right?
Now, Kate, when you made the rosary loops, was that 20 gauge so that they
You
wouldn't
know,
open? What
this
did you use?
this is 22 gauge here.
22.
And
Okay.
yeah, and if your loops on these, and it's a great question, Janice, I wouldn't do a rosary loop any smaller than 22 gauge.
Mm-hmm.
And with the 22 gauge, if you make the loop small enough, it'll have enough integrity to it that it won't open, right? If you have a loop that's really big, in 22 gauge, it'll pull out. So if you're doing them in 22, make them kind of small, okay?
Do you
And
think we might
so
have time today, Kate, for you to show us how you do a really nice just rosary with
the rosary,
22?
sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll grab some 22 after we do
Okay.
these demos. Don't let me forget. I
Okay.
think that's a
Okay.
great one. I also wanted to show we've got these. Sometimes I feel like these little metal briolettes get left
Mm.
out. And it's just, I love metal, and it's just a nice drop of metal. And I think it's maybe we did this when we got these 3 drops in as well. The elongated drop, this briolette, and then I think we call this one the itsy drop. And
Yeah.
look at how it just goes right on that that jump ring right there. So this would also make a really nice centerpiece for your necklace. It doesn't have to be a lariat. You could even isolate like one of these smaller ones. This would also make a great earring, either of these. This one's a little bit heavy, but this especially, this one would be pretty light. And again, we're using the little component part from this Fancy Pants chain. So I wanted to share those with you. And then also look at how we used this nugget.
I used the
Um,
nugget on the Rainbow Odyssey, didn't I? I think so.
did you? I've got
And
it sitting.
gold.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think I
yeah.
used one. Yeah.
You know what? You used the tube, the textured tube, not the nugget.
Oh, okay.
So you use the skinnier one, but
Oh,
they both look great.
oh, okay.
I've got the Rainbow Odyssey sitting.
There's
I
some of
have
my
it sitting.
favorite. Really.
I, I have it sitting right here because it's super inspirational. So I have it sitting right here next to my workspace. Let's see, there's
Oh,
that
yeah,
texture
there.
tube.
Okay. Yeah.
And so you guys can kind of see the difference between the nug, the little nugget, and the textured tube. Yeah, this that Rainbow Odyssey JP was
Well, you
I'm
can wear
still
it, Katie. I'm
I
more than happy
well
for you to wear it.
oh don't think I haven't been wearing it already. I love it. I have it hanging right here. And I wanted to show you guys a couple of other things, and this kind of illustrates where we're going to be going with some of the chain designs that we've got coming up. This is that little lentil chain that we have. And you can see I've used um, the capped off bead cap, I guess,
Hmm.
the larger one, I think this one is. And there's a tassel in there, and then that tassel is wire wrapped up to that lentil up to that lentil chain. So we've got something, I can neither confirm nor deny that we've got something like this coming up soon.
Mm,
But this I like this a lot. You were saying, Janice, like vintage and Miriam Haskell feel and all
hmm.
that kind of stuff. I feel like this has that same kind of feeling to it.
I think a lot of what we do has that feeling. I don't think we can really help ourselves between, like your gran and her button box and how
Right.
you do flea markets and stuff with her, and then Lydia and her vintage jewelry and antique
Yeah.
shop. I don't think,
I think
I
it's
think,
in our DNA, right?
yeah, I do. I
Yeah.
actually do.
Yeah. Well, you started working with, I'm getting my next thing set up here, but you started working with vintage jewelry with Lydia when you were young, very young, right?
I was, I guess, about 12 when I went
Yeah.
to work in her store
Yeah.
um, after school.
Yeah.
And I could either get paid in, money, which was like maybe $3 an hour, or I could accrue time and then pick out a piece of jewelry.
And you were so smart. You picked jewelry, didn't you?
Yeah.
And your mom had a good eye for jewelry.
Yeah, she really did. She really, really did.
She really did. That is for sure.
Oh my
Well,
goodness.
so let me show you guys. So let's talk about kind of the workings of this piece. And Anne asked about what's a rosary loop, and so it's a great way to kind of start this off. And this is what I call a wire wrapped loop, this one. And then the rosary loop looks like this. And the rosary loop, we call it a rosary loop because the way rosaries are made, they're not usually wire wrapped, they're just looped and linked. So can you see how there's no wrap there? So I'm going to show this at the end, this rosary loop, to show you guys the difference. And it's a fast and easy way to connect beads um, with the wire. So the way that this is put together, here's the long view chain. And I really, you can see without the beads how the long view chain looks. Okay, it has a long loop connected by 3 short loops here. And so when I made this piece, I clustered, let me see if I can lay this out here. I clustered the beads. Come on, there we go. So we had 5 different, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We had 6 new beads, right? So I wanted to put each of those into the link. And then I had plenty of the melons, so I thought I would kind of, in the link, I would start and end with a melon. And each of the links are wire wrapped in the same progression, in the same order. Okay, so each link has these 3 on one side, these 4 on the other, and they're in the same order. Now, when you hold it up, you can't really tell that, but with these long beads, I thought that if they weren't spaced evenly, it wouldn't look balanced. So that's how I kind of approached it. Okay. So I have beaded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections, right? And I figured I would go for 6 because I've got
Very
6 of these
clever.
drops, right?
Very clever.
And this, you need a little extra space. Let me lift this here because the the bracelet itself is so bountiful, right? It's so kind of bulky that you need a little more chain than you think you do. Okay, so I originally thought that I was just going to do 5 connectors, but then I realized right away it was a little too small. So you can add or take away your length. Like you could have a little extra length here. You could also wire wrap a couple of links, pardon me, a couple of links of like the melon beads or whatever on the end to make it sit correctly.
So
Janice, I'm
Kate,
gonna, pardon me, just 1 second. I'm gonna have Joe
uh,
go ahead and chat.
okay, so I want to just say if everyone looks at their wrist, you'll see that we have where our hand starts, we have what we would call hips. We have hips on our hand. And when you're measuring where you want for the size of your wrist, you want to measure right above those hips because you don't want your bracelet. I see this happen a lot where the bracelet gets too long, it falls down like below the hips. All of a sudden, it's almost coming off your wrist. So you want to measure your wrist and then measure right above your hips. Keep the tape measure a little bit loose, so not tight. And then that should give you a fairly good measurement of how long you want your total length. Um, and then you do measure it when you're trying it on, you measure it with your hand facing the ground because we don't walk around with bracelets on like this. They're going to drop. And so we want to see what they look like with gravity. That's all I was going to
No, that's
say.
perfectly explained. And I got a cough drop. Sorry, no COVID, just speaking when it's so dry.
Mm.
So bear with me here just a second while I take a sip of gin. Just kidding, it's
You know,
coffee.
I want to say, Kate, that even though your bracelet looks, sort of sporadic or eclectic, there was something very sort of calm and balanced about it. And now that you mention that each one is the same, now I understand why my eye doesn't get tired looking at it. There is balance within it.
Right. And I think that you can, and I think that's one of the, when people say that, oh, it's so difficult to, what do I want to say, design in kind of a random manner, right? Something that is
Mm-hmm.
more randomly put together than something that has a pattern. I think
Right.
that's something that you kind of are challenged with sometimes. It's like how to bring order to something that could easily fall into like a chaotic design.
Right.
So I have an extra little piece of chain, and that's what I'm going to use right here. So I'm going to move this up. And I had some extras. Let me just show you this. I had some extras at the end, those little melons. So I added just a couple on the little end chains, and I added a couple over here next to the clasp. And the clasp that I used the swivel, which I like a lot, especially for bracelets because it just swivels, right? And so I use that one, though you can use any clasp that you really
Mm-hmm.
like, right? And so, oh, Janice, while I'm going to put you up here just real quick while I lay this out. People are
Okay.
asking if you could demo the wrist area again.
Oh, sure,
Um,
sure,
so let me
sure.
hang on there and let me I'm going to put you there.
Okay.
There we go. So you're front and center.
Okay, so
And I'm going to lay this out.
I'm taking off my jewelry,
There you
all
are.
the rings on my
Perfect.
jewelry. So looking at my hand, I've got the wrist here, and my wrist is about 6.5. And then right up here, and I'm doing this backwards, so it's this here on this side. These are right here, these are your hips. All of our wrists have hips because they go into our hand. And so what you want to do, and I'll show it this way. Let me stand up a second. What you want to do, can I show my, where's my hand? Oh, there, let me
There you
stand back. Okay. Okay, so what you want to do is you want
I
to,
know it's confusing.
I don't know how to make my arms, okay, is that better? Okay, so what you want to do is you want to make sure that your bracelet is not going to drag down here. This is a common thing we do when we're measuring and we suddenly have a bracelet, and everyone who I've made a bracelet too large on and it drags down here and they go, oh no, that's really fine, I really like it, and then I go, give it back, I've got to fix it. And
Right.
and what you want to do is you want it to just hang no further than this. So that's the best I can do. I don't really know how to show where the camera is. So keep it
Yeah.
here, but not over here, not in the
Hmm.
freckle section.
Well,
Okay?
and also, if it's too loose, it's not comfortable too, right? It kind
Right.
of drags down. It's not, but of course, you don't want to be super tight. So, again, it's like a couture dress. We have to, you know, we have to try it on.
Well,
So here's my,
an
mhm,
anklet can drag. You can
right,
have that. That's where you
just
want
under the
a
ankle bone.
chain. Yeah, you want it to kind of fall. It's not going to come off. But
Hmm.
a bracelet, you don't want it clanking and getting in the way and catching on things and getting wet when you wash your hands. So
Hmm. Well, thanks for sharing that. That was
you're welcome.
perfect. So what I didn't do on this, and I told myself to do it before I gave it to Karen, so of course it's not on the sample, but pardon me here. I want to close this off with the jump ring. So let me do that.
Hmm.
And you can see how this connects. There we go. That's how it should look.
Do you remember in the old days,
There we go.
the quality of the jump rings was so poor, and
Yeah,
we always
I
had
do.
to, boy, they're just so much better now.
Yeah.
So much better.
And they're
And then you
so,
went back and
mhm,
forth to sort of get it
I
to
did.
shimmy together and
Yeah, I did that kind of automatically, but let me show you
yeah.
just real quick. So I'm using a bent chain nose, kind of hard to see.
Hmm.
There we go. I'm using a bent chain nose and a straight chain nose, and I just kind of work it back and forth. Then I would add my clasp on, I'd add my chain on, and I'd let gravity pull all of that away, right? So it's down there. And I would tighten it back up.
There you go.
Sounds good.
Easy peasy.
Bear with me here just a second. Lynn, is everybody else hearing me okay? Lynn is saying I'm a little faint here. Let me let me see if I can. Oh, here we go. Is that maybe that's better. Hello, hello, hello. That's probably better there. Okay, there we go. Okay. I think I just adjusted a setting. So that should be a little bit better on the sound. Sorry about that. So now let's go ahead. I want to show you this wire wrap because that's the one you guys are going to love. So remember how we did just that briolette wrap before where I bring, where did it go? Here it is. There we go. You can see
Mm.
how it's done like that, right? Which looks nice and neat and it looks really pretty. But I think that part of the allure of this piece is the, I don't know, the chunkiness of this wire and the little ball head pins I think look really nice there with it. So the ball head pins are about, what are they, Janice? About a 21 gauge, you think? It's about right?
Let me
They're not a
check.
20. I think they're a little bit thinner than that. And sometimes when you get them, they're mostly straight, but sometimes you need to straighten them out. So I'll show you here with this one. Just gently, you don't want to strangle it, but you can get your kind of chain nose plier here and you can just gently
21
kind of,
gauge.
21
21.
gauge, great.
Yeah.
You can kind of not flatten it, but straighten it out a little bit this way, like so. Or what I also do is I hold it up against the ball of the head pin and I'll get my nylon jaw plier and I'll come in and I'll straighten it out that way. You can do that too. It also slightly work hardens that wire a little bit when you do that. So if you're just doing a round loop with it, it helps to kind of hold that loop into place. Okay, so now what we're going to do at the bottom here is we're going to make a little hook like this. Okay, I'm going to raise the camera up just a little bit so I can see what
I
I'm
was going
doing
to say
underneath
we
the
were
camera.
missing you a little bit.
There we go. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Now, you want to check, like these check glass briolettes have a nice big hole. Okay, there's some movement there, but it's still a small little sliver of glass up here at the top. So you need to be careful or else you're going to break your drop. Okay, so notice how the loop that I made or that hook that I made is nice and wide. It's not what I want to say. It's not like a too much of a tight curve, right? It's not a hairpin curve. It's more like a U shape. Okay. So now, and I can see here, even when this drop is on, I need a little more space between the tip of that drop and the ball of the head pin. So I'm going to take this off, and you'll see why in just a second. I'm going to straighten that out very carefully. And I'm going to give myself just a little more. There we go. That might actually be a little bit long, but that's okay. You'll see this a little bit better. So this slides on. Okay, and again, there's still movement. It's not tight. That's not what we want. Then, very carefully, either with our chain nose or our bent chain nose, I'm going to come in and I'm going to smush. That's a technical term. See how I've got that there? So just the top of those wires come together, right? I just came in, gave that a little hug, but there's still movement here. It's not tight. That's the secret. If this, at this point, if this loop is too tight, stop and redo it, because as you wrap and stuff, you're just going to break off the tip of this glass bead. And I know because I did a couple that way. So really make sure that this loop, a longer wire like this, and let me take it out of frame just real quick, I'll measure it. This is about 1/4 of an inch right here. Okay. Now we're just going to wire wrap like we would normally, like a kind of a briolette wrap. We bend the wire at a right angle and see where the dot is here. It's just kind of hanging out. We're not even going to worry about it. We're going to come up and over the top like this, and I'm going to raise the camera up so you can see this a little bit better. And I'm going to go down and underneath.
Kate, can you come back in the frame?
Oops, sorry.
There.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to go down and underneath so you can see I've made that loop on this wire, and that little ball is just there. Now, if I'm connecting this to a chain link, I could use a jump ring after the fact, but I wanted everything to be all encompassing, so I'm just going to open that loop up and add it onto the chain. All right, here comes the trick now. Now you kind of have to hold everything the link, the loop, kind of both hold them so they're tight, not that you're smashing the wire, but just so that they're kind of firm around there. And I'm just going to start with my fingers. Try and keep the drop out of the way. And just bring it around. Now, once I brought it around a couple of times with my fingers, I can continue to bring it around if I want to with my tool. And I don't want it to get it too close to the drop, because again, that drop will just give up the ghost and say, I'm done. So you have to be really careful at this point how much you wrap. I'm going to try and get one more in there. Maybe I'll just clip it here. And it'll give me a little room for tucking it in. Okay, so see this right there? I'm tucking that right in. And you can see, sometimes if you need to straighten that out, but can you see that nice little ball is there?
That looks,
I think it looks
that
nice.
looks so artisan.
Right. Thank you. It's a little, just a little something extra. I mean, you can just wire wrap them in general, like you would. But again, make sure the secret to this is give yourself some room here. And you can see throughout the piece, I have each of these has some space so you don't break that briolette. But the secret is that hook, nice wide U-shaped hook and some space there. And then the other ones you would just, I'll show you. I don't have to do these in order. I'll wire wrap this other one. I'll wire wrap a spindle for fun. What I also wanted to add was just a little bit of metal on some of these. So with the spindle, you can see the spindle has a daisy spacer. So you can just put the daisy spacer on like this. And the spindle. And then on others, I wanted it to look, I don't know, a little more opulent. So that's when I went for that A-dot and the daisy spacer. And then that's ready to wrap. So it adds, I think, just a nice little finish right towards the end. So they all look kind of special.
It looks great. And I like the way you didn't bookend them on both ends necessarily, because you
Right.
factored in that you were wire wrapping and that was going to add some busyness. It's very,
Right.
very nicely done.
Thank you. And so
Yeah.
sometimes, like you say, I didn't bookend, I just flipped it so the pin was just plain there, and I put the daisy spacer and the A-dot up on the top.
Right.
So let me show you, let's talk about the differences between the rosary loop and the regular wire wrap. So the regular wire wrap, and you guys have seen me do this before, I'll come in with my flat nose plier right here, and I'll come in at the very tip of the tool. And the part of the wire I'm covering up, that's what I'm going to come back and wire wrap over, right, later. So if you have it like way down here, you'll have fewer wraps. If you have it way up here, you'll have more wraps, okay? And so about right here will give me about 3, I think. So I'm going to bend that wire over the top of the tool. And you can see I've got a nice, crisp right angle. That right angle, as you guys know, you guys who wire wrap a lot, that right angle will make sure that our loop is nice and round rather than teardrop shaped. Okay. We also have Gita just put up under our skill builders. We have a great skill builder on beadshop.com on how to wire wrap using a head pin. But I'll come in and you can see here how the heads of my tool Now I've switched to the round nose plier. Whoops. Come on. There we go. How the tips of my round nose plier are right up against the angle here coming up from the bead. What I do with my thumb, I come up and over the top of that tool. I flip the tool up and out of the way, and I pull that wire across and rotate the loop towards center, and then pull that down. And you can see how that round head of the plier has given me a nice round loop. Okay.
It's
And
perfect.
well, this is probably what, my 1 millionth wire wrap of my life? I don't know. What Audrey is asking is, and it's a great question, with the spindle beads, are they more apt to break at the top? Are they more delicate there? Well spotted, Audrey. Any of these glass beads, same thing like with this drop, though the drop is a little more rounded, so I feel like it's a little more forgiving. This spindle, it's kind of hard to see by the hole, but it's kind of cut off and flat. So yeah, if you have your wire like right up next to it and you bend it really tightly against it and stuff, it may crack. So you just want to be careful. You don't worry that they're super delicate, but you do want to be mindful when you're making these, not to hit too close to the hole, if that makes sense. Okay, so here we go. And if we're going to connect this to the chain, we connect it at this point. If not, then we just wire wrap it closed, but I'm gonna bring it here, open that loop up just a little bit. Now I'm gonna hold everything with my flat plier, because the flat plier is your gripper, everybody, right? If you are grabbing it with your round plier, see how your round plier, there's no flat surface that comes together with it, right? This is meant to loop. This one's meant to grab. So when you grab with this tool, it keeps everything from moving around when you're wire wrapping with it. Okay?
And it
So now I'm
doesn't
just,
leave impressions on the
exactly,
wire like
because,
the round nose does. Ding, ding,
right,
ding,
you
ding,
have
ding.
to
I do that all the
ding.
time.
Well,
Ding.
so see, there you go. There's 180 there. 180 there. 180 there. 180 there. See that? And I'm just going to come in and clip this away. There we go. And that's it. So that's done. Ta-da! So let me show you the difference between that one, and I've got some 22 gauge right here for you guys to look at. Let me get a piece of 22 gauge, and I'll show you the rosary loop. Okay, so with the rosary loop, you can start with an eye pin, and the eye pin already has the eye on one side, but of course you can also make it. So let me just bend. I'm going to say you need about about 3/8 of an inch right here. Okay, which is about here. Now, I'm going to go at the very end of the wire. I can't feel it at all under my grubby little finger. My in need of it's been a year manicure finger. And I roll that loop. I feed it through the head of the plier until it hits, I can feel it, and it hits the wire on the other side. See, so I've got that nice round, and if I need to straighten it out, I'll do that. Okay.
Kate, do you happen to have any rosary pliers handy from the
I
old
do.
days?
Yep, I've
Can
got
we
one too
show,
right here. Yeah,
so
I've got that.
yeah. So originally rosary pliers were designed for nuns to be able to make the rosaries without having
Mm-hmm.
to drop the round nose plier, cut the wire with a wire cutter, pick the
Mm-hmm.
round nose plier back up. It was really
Which
pretty
has the cutter
genius.
right here. Yeah, it has
Yeah,
the cutter right here. So I would come in and I'd use that cutter to
right.
clip away. And then again, that same thing, going up about, I don't know, an eighth of an inch on the tool, keeping the tension as I go so that my two loops are done here.
Very, very clever.
That's it. So the thing that you want to keep in mind when you're, and I'm going to clip this little point away, when you're making your loop, and I'll do it again for you guys to see. If I bend at that right angle, I'm going to lift this just a little bit more. I grab with the at the tip of the wire. There's no, I'll turn it to the side. There's no wire coming through the heads of the tool because you need to start curling that wire at the very end so that your loop will be completely round. Okay, so I'll come in and I keep the tension on my wire. I'm pushing forward with this hand. My left hand is my non-dominant hand, and I'm holding the plier in my right hand. And see how it just slides through the head of the plier and open and slide back, close, push forward. And I can feel that my wire has hit the wire on the other side. Now, if it's not perfectly straight, and this is something I do automatically, I just come in and I just put that wire over just a little so it's nice and round or nice and centered. There we go. Another bead. Bend right at the top of the bead hole with your finger. All right, and if you're using the traditional rosary plier, you'd come in, lop it off here, point that wire towards you, get that tension. My left hand's pushing the bead away from me, and my right hand is working the tool to loop this over the top. And see if there's a little bit of an opening there. I just come in with the tips of my tool and close it up. And there you have your two loops. Now we might as well
And
attach them, JP. What do you think?
right, right. And the reason rosaries are done with usually like 20 gauge wire is because if they're used for meditation, they're used in your hands, and to do the stations, and you're moving them and using them. It's not like a necklace, and so the
Right.
20 gauge is really the workhorse
Mm-hmm.
of the rosary loop.
Yeah, the
But
rosary
you're
loop
saying
hole.
you could also use 22 gauge
Yeah,
and it
and
would
see
be
the 20.
secure. Yeah,
Yeah, because that 22 gauge, that loop isn't giant. Now, if I
yeah,
made my 22 gauge loop a lot bigger,
yeah.
right? If I did it. Pam's saying, time for some more Bead Olympics. Yeah, if you look at some of my Kate's Creative Connections broadcasts, we did the loops, and I challenged you to make as many loops
Yes,
as you can in a minute. So see, that loop is a lot bigger. So,
yeah,
and it's easy to open just with my fingers like this, right?
yeah.
But if my loop is smaller, about half that size, make it nice and small here, close it up. See here, here's that small loop. I can't, there's not a lot of surface. See, I can't, I'm really trying to open it, and there's not a lot of surface to grab, right? But here, since
So
it's big,
Kate,
it's easy to open.
yeah.
Hmm.
So Kate, if you were a beginner and you wanted to pre-cut all your wires the same length, would you do that and then maybe have a little guide of where you bend back? Would you do
Yeah,
that,
I
or do you just do
could.
it by instinct after a
I
while?
don't know. I mean, I think that you get familiar with the heads of your tool. It's a really good question. And Monica also has a question that I want to answer, and then I'll show you this. Monica is asking, does it matter if you wrap away or towards yourself? It doesn't really. I like wrapping away from myself because that's just how I do it. But if you would rather rotate your loop towards you, that's fine too. Whatever works for you. Can you see here on the heads of these tools how there's some little faint marks, little ghosts of Sharpie markers that are on there, right? So if I knew that I wanted a pretty small loop, okay, I would come in and I might give myself a guide here on the tip of my tool. So I know that that's what I'm aiming for with my loop, okay? And also one of the things that and this I think is a tool. Yeah, see how the faint, you can see
Yeah.
it says class. Can you see how it sort of says
Yeah.
class there? A little faint. These were from, I think, my Beadissimo class tools, I think. Because you can see here, there's another faint line that's going across these. And so this plier was obviously used in earring class for a long time. So that length that's across on these rosary tools, I'm going to pull it out of frame for just a second. This is about 3/8 of an inch. Okay, so one of the ways, and I'll just do this with a traditional, as if I were making an earring that had a rosary loop. Okay, so here's I'll just do it with this. I'll put one of these on, and if we're going to do it, we might as well do it. So I'll put one of these daisy spacers on, and then we'll put this guy. So instead of wire wrapping, we'll do a rosary. So I'm going to bend at the top of the bead. And there's a little, you can't see it, but I can feel it. There's a little tiny bit of space there. I haven't pushed that wire so tight that this bead doesn't have any movement, because again, that's what will split your bead. So what I would tell people in earring class, and we did this at during Beadshop days too, JP, you can kind of hold that wire up to that mark on the side of these traditional rosary pliers and kind of visualize in your mind that's about 3/8 of an inch. So I'll come in, I'll put my cutter there, and you can kind of say, does that look about the same length? Yeah, it does. I'll clip, and sorry I wasn't covering that, so I would send myself to sit in the corner. But see how that's about the right length. You can check it. If it's too much, you can take a little away. If you've cut too little away, you can take a little more away. If you've cut too much away, you'll just make a loop that's a little bit smaller.
Now, why don't we carry these anymore? Is it because the cutter is so soft and
I don't know. I don't know why we don't carry these. We probably should. I like
mm,
this tool. I mean, this
mm,
is a classic. It's a
yeah,
classic here.
yeah.
So here we've got, and see how I rotate this over, and see how I've got the mark, the wire and the mark are staying together. And I also keep my tool nice and tight inside the loop. If it's not completely closed, just rotate it in. But there we go. We can see we've got a nice closed. We want to close it. Now, what I do is I close it all the way, and then when I open it, I open just up, and then I'll attach it to whatever it needs to be attached to and firmly close. Some people say what they like to do is, do I have one here, is that they'll try and make the loop and not close it all the way, and then try and put it on, and then try and get your tool in there to finish closing. And it's really hard to do that, right? Because there's no way to get that round nose plier in. So it's easy to just complete the loop totally, lift, connect, and then close with that flat nose. And that's it. That's all she wrote. Easy peasy.
Wow.
So you could, if you didn't want to do all that wire wrapping, right? These rosary loops with this 21 gauge, they're pretty sturdy. You know, I prefer the wire wrapped look, but this would also be great as an earring. you can just look at how pretty that component looks as just a little earring there, and you would just connect that to an ear wire.
So, Kate, could you talk for just a second or two about if you're making the rosary loop and it's really not giving the chain an opportunity to like move freely, that
Mm-hmm.
your rosary loop will eventually open?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's well spotted, JP. So, and I just do this. This is something I do automatically, right? Is in my head, again, I'm playing chess in my head with this, right? I'm visualizing what size loop I need to make so that it will have movement going around this chain. If your loop, again, is too big, it'll pull out, right? Um, it'll be too big, there'll be too much movement there and it'll pull. But if it's too small, like you say, JP, it'll be too tight on this chain and it'll rub and eventually it'll come open. So you might even want to kind of test with if you have a little piece of
Hmm.
wire or something, right? So that you want to make sure that you're not making your loop too small.
Or if
To
it's not round enough, if it's just
right, exactly. If
it,
it's
more of
what do I
a
want to
sort
say?
of a rectangle or
Yeah,
oval, it
oval,
it can
exactly.
also open. Yeah.
Exactly. So here's this one. Yeah, if you make yours a little more like a pea shape, but yeah, I
Hmm.
can see this size would be right, and you can see how it just moves
Hmm.
nicely on there. So, um, a lot of people also, when they make the rosary loops, and so there's a question, is there advantage to using a rosary loop over a wire wrap loop? Well, simply like with this piece that I did here, I wanted to make sure that nothing was going to move or nothing was going to pull off, right? And especially like on this bracelet would get a lot of wear and tear on my wrist. So I opted to wire wrap all of these. But you can see with this loop that I did there, just the wire wrap or just the rosary loop, it's large enough so it moves well on the chain. And if it were just an earring, it's up at my ears, so it's going to get less, it's going to get batted around maybe a little bit less. Um, and maybe visually, I just wanted the bead to show and not have a bunch of wire around it. So it just depends on a lot of factors: what size wire you're using, what size chain you're using. Will this hold up? Like I said, if I had just done rosary loops for all of these chains and just added these on, these probably would stay. I wouldn't
Well, in
really
the
see.
old days, and like not the old days, but in the 50s and 60s, those beaded charm bracelets were done with brass wire. They were
Mm-hmm.
done with rosary loops. And, um, I've taken in lots of repairs where they were missing beads, or
Mm-hmm.
the beads came off the end of the head pin, and the
Right,
head
because
pin
they
was
just
still
pulled.
attached to the
Mm-hmm.
bracelet.
Right,
Um,
right. Because
I
they
mean,
pulled out the
in those,
opposite end too.
yeah, and
Yeah.
they in those days they didn't do a lot of wire wrapping.
Mm-hmm.
This is sort of a newer technique that wasn't really. Do you remember this being popular in the 50s and 60s? Wire wrapping,
Yeah, mostly I think most of these, like you say, like those bracelets that, like the Tutti Frutti bracelet, they kind of called it,
right?
right? That had
Right.
like the drucks in different sizes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Most of those were rosary looped,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they were made uh, a lot of times with like the pure brass wire and stuff like you're saying, so the loop was hardened. And if you look at those, the loops on those are pretty small
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want them to pull off. But yeah, they definitely would, a wire wrap I think is much more secure. A lot of times I wanted to show you guys something that didn't, what not to do, okay? Because I see this a lot when people are first trying to perfect their rosary loops. I'm going to try and show you from the side view. So see, here's the tip of the tool and here's my bead. Now, a lot of times what people do is they try and grab the tip of that wire and they try and curl the wire, right? They try and just grab the tip to make the loop. So you get something, I've seen this happen like a million times, right? So you get kind of this sad little laying down kind of open loop like this, right? So the way to combat that is, here's our bend. Keep the contact between the tool and the wire. See how that's sliding through? I'm not grabbing the tip to try and just pull it around in a loop. I'm actually using the heads, this plier like a mandrel to shape that wire around. I think that's something that'll be real helpful to people. So these are your little loop mandrels. These are what you shape your wire around. Okay. So any other questions on this? So it's pretty clear. Let me give you guys some measurements so you know. My wrist is about 6.5 inches. So I'm going to give you a door-to-door measurement for this. This is from the tip of the clasp to about the very end. I was going to say it's about an 8-inch bracelet. And you can see where it sits on me, again, because it's a little bulky. You need a little more room than you think you do. Let's see if I can get it in here. There we go. And you can see this is, I think, Janice, you would say that this is just slightly big.
Yeah, I
I think
would,
it's
Kate.
just slightly big. You would.
Yeah,
And
I
so
would.
what you could do, see here how I've got this section here? I could just remove that section. So
Or
let's
couldn't
take
they
a
be a
look.
dangle? Could they be dangles?
Yeah, no,
Oh no, they're
exactly.
on the, are they on the
And
clasp side? They're
nope,
on the
they're on the,
clasp
they're
side.
actually on the chain. So I'll show you. Let me get this. Yeah. So I'm going to open this up. And it doesn't matter. You could keep them there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just attach the clasp to the end of this chain. Now let's check the size again.
Yes.
Let's see if I can shake this.
And you have so many rings, you could really just go into any ring if you
Yeah,
wanted.
exactly. There we go. There's the ring. And here's this. Okay. And look at, even with just that little bit of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
of sizing, it sizes a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I can also, let's take a look if I wanted to make it a little, even a little smaller.
Mm-hmm.
I could get my jump ring. That's the beauty of these nice 6mm 18 gauge jump rings. You can make that, just make that go into the piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
Close that off. There's the ring.
Yeah.
There we go. It's there. I know it's there somewhere. There it is. Let's see if Kate can get her bracelet on in front of all of these people. And that's how I know that my bracelet is a little small, actually, is if I can't quite maneuver it all on my own like this, then I know, oh, you know what? It's just a touch. See how I can't even quite get that in there? I know it's a touch too small
Mm.
already, for me anyway. But you could, I'll just close it up like this.
You could put just one more jump ring there.
I could add one more jump ring. Exactly right. And I've got one right here. So I'll do that. One of these, one of these. It's like a needle in a haystack. One of these. My mom was saying earlier she would also like to see this in the brass colorway. I think the brass
Mm.
colorway would really be a nice vintage, have a nice vintage feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of vintage feel, soon we've got some more of these drops dropping. in some really
Mm,
beautiful vintage colors that I know you guys are going to love. Speaking of the Miriam Haskell colorway, there we go. So look at that. And there it is. Okay.
perfect.
So that'll work out nicely. So that's it, really. That's all she wrote.
Looks
Pretty simple.
beautiful.
So I hope you guys enjoyed. I had a good time with you today, JP, working on all
Me
this.
too. Me too.
I wanted
It's fun
to
to go on.
It is. It's fun to meet again. And you always have some good pearls of wisdom to share, of course. Pearls, as in literal pearls of wisdom. But you guys can always follow us on our social media at beadshop.com on Instagram, at the Bead Table on Facebook, which is our wonderful private Facebook group, which is going strong. We have almost 6,000 members over there.
Wow.
Lots of inspiration and fun stuff happens there. And of course, right here on our YouTube channel, give us a subscribe, a thumbs up, a share, all of those things. We really appreciate it because every little bit that you do to engage our social media helps other people find us. And I also wanted to mention that you can find all of the information on the project and products from today's broadcast right on our website. You can sign up for the newsletter for the latest discounts, giveaways, and products. And we've got some good stuff happening over
Yep.
the weekend, so you want to make sure and check your newsletters. On Friday, I have a fun technique that I'm going to be sharing with you guys on Free Tip Friday. Let me get the demo camera out of here so it's just you and me. There we are. Look at that. Let me put our names up just so it makes us look fancy. There we go.
Mm.
Look at that. So I've got something new that I'll be honest, I've never tried before, and it was a special request from Drea and everybody. So I'm going to see what. So it's going to be either my greatest triumph
Oh,
or my greatest despair. So we'll see what happens. I'll let you know on Friday. But from both of us, Janice, I want to say happy Thanksgiving to you.
yeah.
And I know from you and
Thank
I, and
you.
from everybody here at the office, a big, big happy Thanksgiving from our to our American friends and to our worldwide viewers. We are thankful for you guys every day that you come twice a week and join us and share, pull up a table at this creative.
Yep.
I don't know, creative dinner that we always have on Wednesdays and Fridays. So I guess that's it, JP.
Yeah.
I guess we did
Yeah.
it all.
I guess so. Now I've got to start cooking
That's
for
right.
one.
Well, that's right. Yeah. Chris and I cooking for two, but we've got a big
Yeah.
turkey. So what are you going to do? But happy
Well,
Thanksgiving.
I
Happy.
thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I am making some plates for some people in the building.
Oh,
So
that's nice.
I'll wear my gloves, my mask while I spoon it all out and
Oh, that's
cover
nice.
it in foil and put it in plastic and
And put
um,
on your hazmat suit and get out there.
yeah.
It's perfect. People are also commenting, Janice, on your earrings. They love your earrings. So we were
I
just talking
told
about the
you,
earrings. I
Katie.
know.
Yeah,
We're gonna,
yeah.
we're
Wait,
gonna,
let me.
yeah,
Yeah, we have, these are with pies. We have
yeah,
to bring these back, Katie.
yeah. We're gonna bring those back because that was really
Katie,
fun.
my dear.
Yes, Janice, my dear. Well, happy Thanksgiving to all y'all, and I will see
Yeah.
you on Friday on the other side of our thankful social distance Thanksgiving holiday. Whatever you do this holiday, you guys, be safe, wear those
Wear your
masks,
mask.
wash those hands, and happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you on Friday. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.